Jai Hind, dear students. Hope you all are moving ahead with your studies well. We were discussing about the chapter metals and non-metals, wherein we have already discussed about the physical properties of metals and the non-metals, and we have already started the chemical properties of the metals and the non-metals, in which we have discussed about the nature of metal and the non-metal when they come in the contact of oxygen. That means the reaction of metals and the non-metals with oxygen, and the type of oxide and the nature of the oxide form. So up to this we have already discussed in the previous classes. Now today we are going to move ahead with the next topic, which is the chemical properties, and the next property we are going to talk about. We were discussing about the chemical properties of non-metals, and here you can see in this slide there are few of the chemical properties which are the major ones, and we will be talking about all these different properties one by one. In the previous class we have discussed about the reaction of metals and non-metals with oxygen, and today we are going to talk about the reaction with water. That means we are going to talk about and have a comparative study how the metals behave with water and how the non-metals behave towards the water. And in the later on classes we are going to talk about the reaction with acids, we are going to talk about the displacement reactions and the reaction with bases as well. So let us begin the next topic, that is the reaction with water. Before we talk about the reaction of metals with water, let us talk about an interesting point over here, which is the part of your NCERT as well, and that is the process of anodizing. Now, when we talk about the process of anodizing, it is actually the process in which there is a formation of thick oxide layer of aluminium. So, aluminium here is developing a thin layer of oxide on exposure to air, and this aluminium oxide coat makes it resistant to further corrosion. You all must have observed the aluminium utensils if they are found at home. So whenever you take them out after several days, there is a white colored layer which appears over it. So that layer is actually the oxide layer of aluminium. And what is the importance of that oxide layer? It is that if that oxide layer don't form, it is going to corrode the whole metal gradually over the long period of time. But once this layer of oxide gets formed, what will happen? Further, no aluminium in its metallic form is going to come in the contact of oxygen, and further corrosion will not be allowed. So this resistance can be improved further by making the oxide layer thicker. And during this process of anodizing, a clean aluminium article is made the anode and is electrolyzed with dilute sulfuric acid. So I hope everyone knows the process of electrolysis, in which we have to take a cathode and the anode. So during this process, what we can do, during anodizing process, we can take a clean aluminium article, which is the anode, and we have to put up a layer of oxide of aluminium over the same. So we can do this process by the process of electrolysis also. But there will be a gas evolution at the anode, and here this gas will be oxygen gas, and this will react with aluminium, and it will make a more thicker protective oxide layer. Now, as I told you just now, that this oxide layer will be the protective layer, and it can be dyed easily to give aluminium articles an attractive finish. So this can be one of the commercial use of the process of anodizing, wherein we can use the aluminium materials or the articles for the process of making decorative materials, in which we are doing the anodizing, and then after we are protecting it for from undergoing the process of corrosion. So this is one extra thing which you should be knowing. So now let us talk about the reaction of metals with water. So here there has been an activity which has been demonstrated, in which it is given that there are some samples of different like metals which are to be collected, and then you have to put the small pieces of samples separately in the beakers which are half filled with cold water. Now you have to then observe which metal is reacting with cold water, which is reacting with like hot water, which is floating on the surface, which is getting deposited at the bottom. So and which are the metals which do not react with the water at all. So this is how we will be able to understand that the different metals have a different pattern of reactivity towards the towards the water, and depending upon that reactivity we will talk about that the different metals are going to react with water at a different rates. Now in this case you can see this slide is talking about the reaction of metals with water. So when we talk about a general reaction, so generally metals will form their corresponding hydroxides on reacting with water. Now let us talk about some specific examples over here, and we all know that sodium and potassium are two highly reactive metals. So in general, how can you remember and understand this thing that higher is the reactivity of any metal, easier it is to react it with any of the component, maybe it is air or it is water. So if you can recall the case of sodium and potassium in terms of its reaction with oxygen, I hope you will be able to recall that sodium was not a less reactive metal, and it is highly reactive, and because of which it is able to explode even if ignition is not provided to the same. And just because of the same reason here also, the sodium and potassium, both of these metals are going to react vigorously with water, and in fact it is going to react with the cold water even. You need not to provide any amount of heat energy here, and there will be a reaction in which there will be the formation of sodium hydroxide along with hydrogen gas, and for sure there will be a lot of heat energy liberated in both the reactions. Similarly, when we will talk about the reaction of potassium with water, as you all can see this reaction, there is a formation of potassium hydroxide plus hydrogen gas, which is highly combustible gas, and along with this heat energy is also evolved. And this is the only reason when the sodium metal comes in the contact of water, it catches fire. It is because when this heat energy comes in the contact of this hydrogen gas, which is a highly, very, very highly combustible gas, it leads to catching the fire. So these are the two important metals which you need to know and remember as well. Moving on to a few more examples here. So sodium and potassium, since they are the highly reactive metals, so they will be forming their hydroxide along with hydrogen gas. So in general, we can understand that whenever a metal will react with water, it will lead to the formation of its metal hydroxide along with the hydrogen gas. But there are few cases in which the metal being less reactive will not be able to form its hydroxide, rather it is going to react with water to form its corresponding metal oxides. So we will talk about these examples too. So here you can see, apart from sodium and potassium, let's see the calcium case. Calcium is also one of the reactive metals. So in this case, when calcium is coming in the contact of water, it is going to form calcium hydroxide plus hydrogen gas. Similarly, if we talk about magnesium, magnesium will also react with water under boiling condition, and it will lead to the formation of magnesium hydroxide along with the evolution of hydrogen gas. Now, whenever we will talk about aluminium and iron, so these are the steam water in the form of steam. Even if steam condition is provided, they are not able to form their hydroxides. Rather, it is the formation of their metal oxides, which is aluminium oxide and ferric oxide. Okay, so here you will find that this is the oxide formation in the cases of aluminium and iron, and in fact this is called as ferrosoferric oxide. And the common products in all these cases, whenever a metal is reacting with the water, the common products for each case will be the hydrogen gas. So just remember the cases where there are the products which are not conventional, and there is a difference with the general product. So in general, when a metal is reacting with water, leads to the formation of its corresponding hydroxide along with hydrogen gas. But aluminium and iron, instead of formation of their hydroxide, they are forming their oxides, that is aluminium oxide and the ferrosoferric oxide. They are not the hydroxides here. Now this is the overall summary of the whole reaction of metals with water. So when metal is reacting with water, the generalized product has to be metal hydroxide plus hydrogen gas. So a metal can react with cold or hot water, and then in these two cases, whenever it is cold water or the hot water, in both the cases the product form will be metal hydroxide and the hydrogen gas. When a metal is reacting under the condition of steam, in this case always remember the metal is going to form the oxide along with the hydrogen gas. It is not going to be the hydroxide formation. So as told in the previous slides, that potassium and sodium are going to react with the cold water, and even including calcium, because they are highly reactive. In all these cases you can see there is a formation of hydroxide plus hydrogen gas, and along with the same there is an evolution of heat energy in these two cases. So they are considered to be highly exothermic reactions. Now, in the case of magnesium, it is the hot water or boiling water, we can say, leading to the formation of its hydroxide, that is magnesium hydroxide, also termed as milk of magnesia. Moving on to the case of aluminium, just now I discussed previously that aluminium is going to react with water under steam condition, and it is going to form aluminium oxide along with hydrogen gas. And the similar conditions are also exhibited by zinc, in which zinc oxide, and in the iron, which is ferrosoferric oxide, is being formed when these metals undergo reaction with steam. So this is the flow chart which can compile the whole reaction. And in fact, you may also remember that there are few of the metals which may not react with water at all. So the very first category, react with cold water. Those metals are sodium, potassium and calcium. It's basically because it depending upon its reactivity. So the reactivity of these metals are quite high, and because of this they are able to react with water even under the cold condition. So second is reaction with steam. These are the aluminium, iron and zinc. They are moderately reactive or maybe less reactive. That's why they are not able to form hydroxide. Rather, they are going to form their oxides along with hydrogen gas. Now reaction with hot water, which is magnesium, can be one of the case here. Now, there are few of the metals which will not react with water at all, and these metals are lead, copper, silver, and the gold. Okay, now this is an important point which you all need to remember. Many a times this question is asked, why does calcium float on the surface whenever it is put up in the water container? So it is not only calcium, it is magnesium also which float as bubbles of hydrogen will stick to their surface. And because we know that hydrogen is a very light gas, it will make these metals to float onto the surface. So these two names, that is calcium and magnesium, these two metals you need to remember very carefully, because most of the times, like the questions are being put up related to the same. Calcium and magnesium will float on the surface of water because of the bubbles of hydrogen which have got stuck to the metals. It will not allow it to get sink inside the container wherever you have added them. This is the part of the NCRT, and this is the activity which you all can see, in which the action of steam on a metal has been described. So you can see there is a glass wool soaked in water which has been put up under this boiling tube, and a metal sample has been put up here. Now, this is actually the glass wool which has been taken here is soaked in water, because we require, when we will be providing the heat here, it will get evaporated, and inside the tube only it will go and get reacted with the metal sample. Now, when this reaction gets completed, you can see there are some bubbles formation, which is actually because of the hydrogen gas. So, whenever we will talk about the action of steam on a metal, one thing is sure, that we are going to get the hydrogen gas. And I hope everyone remembers that how we are able to confirm the presence of hydrogen gas. It is by the pop sound test. That means wherever this gas is evolving, you bring a burning matchstick nearby the mouth of that test tube and suddenly release the gas. It will extinguish that candle or that matchstick with a pop sound. So that is how the identification of hydrogen gas is done, and this is the characteristic test also for the hydrogen gas identification. As you all can see, there are certain general reactions which are given. So metal, when reacts with water, leads to the formation of metal oxide initially, and when this metal oxide further is allowed to react with water, leads to the formation of metal hydroxide. So if metal is reacted with water, it is forming metal oxide plus hydrogen gas, and this metal oxide, when reacting with water, forms metal hydroxide. So the final reaction, which on combining these two reactions, we will get that when metal is reacting with water, it will lead to the formation of metal hydroxide plus hydrogen gas. All those examples which have been discussed over here, just now I have discussed with you all in the previous slides. You all can see reaction of sodium potassium with water. The reaction of calcium with water is less violent, and here the heat which is being evolved is not sufficient for the hydrogen to catch fire, so it's not exothermic. So, but in the cases of sodium and potassium, it is highly exothermic. Now, yes, this is the same point what has been given. Calcium starts floating because the bubbles of hydrogen gas formed stick to the surface of metal, and it is also the magnesium which will also float because of the bubbles of hydrogen gas which is formed sticking to the surface of the metal. Magnesium, as I told you, does not react with cold water, rather it requires hot water to form the magnesium hydroxide and hydrogen. It also starts floating because of the bubbles of hydrogen gas sticking to its surface. Now, there are few metals such as aluminium, iron and zinc which do not react either with cold or hot water, but they react with steam to form the metal oxide and hydrogen. Students, this is very important to be remembered, that when it comes to aluminium, iron and zinc, you will have to remember this, that it is not the hydroxide formation, it is their oxide formation along with the hydrogen gas. And yes, as like told previously also, lead, copper, silver and gold, these are few of the metals which will not react with water under any circumstances, whether it is cold or hot or it is the steam condition. Now, when I talk in the reference of non-metals, so you can see the non-metals generally do not react with water, and rather some of the non-metals, because of this reason, can be stored under the water. Like one of the very common example, phosphorus, whose ignition temperature is very low and it catches fire very easily at around 35 degrees Celsius. So because of this, it is stored under water. And also the second reason is that the non-metals are quite reactive towards the oxygen or air, but they are non-reactive towards the water. So we can store few of the non-metals under the water, but this is not so in the case of the metals like sodium or potassium. They are stored under kerosene oil because they are highly reactive towards air, as well as they are highly reactive towards the water, and in fact the reaction is highly exothermic, because of which there can be certain accidents also which are possible. So when we talk about reaction of non-metals with water, just remember that the non-metals generally do not show any reaction with water, and because of this reason they may also be stored under the water, and as in comparison to the metals. So this is all about this particular property, in which we have talked about the reaction of metals and the non-metals with water, and what are the different ways and what are the different reactions which we talk about whenever these show the reaction with water or they don't show the reaction. So hope whatever I have discussed today is clear to everyone. So thank you everyone. Jai Hind and take care all of you.